Okay, here is the second video for ADOC 8. So what we're going to do here, I'm going to share my screen and move on to the second activity in ADOC 8. So what we have here, we're going to look at summary functions. Summary functions here, so I think it's very simple here. The first function you have here is the sum function. For the sum function, we're basically going to add numbers, and we're going to add this to this and get the total here. So this is basically what we have to do. Um, so we're going to write equal, and we can either write each number. For example, I can write 504, comma. I can write. I can take here, comma. Uh, here, comma, comma, and we get the sum. Or let's move on to the average here. The average of this is basically the sum of all of this divided by 3. But let's use the average function here. Average function, or I can use the range of those three numbers and still get the value that I'm looking for, which is 559. I can do the same thing for sum and average. I can use the range for both. Or I can write each number and each one number, one comma, and so on until the formula is complete and I get the number I'm looking for. So for the mean function here, we're going to be looking for the minimum of those three numbers, and the minimum looks like it is number one, 5,940. But let's go ahead and write equal minimum in min. So we're taking the range here, and we get the formula that we're looking for, the number, which is, like I said, number one, 5,940. We see the same thing for max function, maximum number in the range here. So let's go and use this one. I think it will be 6,000 something, 6,950. Yeah. So now this is a bit tricky for the count function. So the count function, we use the count function here to count when we want to count the number of items or stuff. But usually it works. It is appropriate to use that function when we have numbers in the cells. It doesn't really work when we have text or numbers, but with like punctuations and hyphens, for example. So this is what we use the count function to, for example, here, if we use the count function, we're going to determine like how many cells here, how many cells have like numbers in them. And here we have two. We have one cell which is 940, and we have one is 304. This one is blank. There's no number in them, so probably we get two here. This is what I'm going to do. But when we use the count function, we use it like to count text, like to count values in cells. But in general, those values, like, it's not numbers, but it's like those cells, they are text, like things like names, like here for the Bill, Paul, and John. Or we have like a series of numbers, but with punctuations, commas, stuff like that. Count function cannot work with those types of cells. It works best when there's just numbers and nothing else. And nothing else. Uh, and nothing else. But the count a function and nothing else here. But the count a function here um, it just works with when the cells contain text and nouns and stuff like that, and letters, or they are numbers but with punctuation and hyphens. So what we're going to do here, we're going to use the count function. Okay. Oh no, not count a, the count function. We're going to take the range here. to get the number of cells that includes numbers and from there is 2. Here we're going to use the count a function and take the range of this to determine, for example, let's say if someone, for example, I have 3 friends. So the count a function is going to tell me here that I have 3 friends. Like it's going to count literally how many friends I have here. That's what it's going to count here. But if, for example, instead of writing the name of people here, I had numbers instead, I can't use the counting function. It won't be appropriate. It will be the count function that will work. So here it'll be free because we are free for people. The count blank function, we're going to use it to count like blank cells. You're going to tell us how many blank cells we have in a range. So here, for example, in that range, we have only 1 blank cell, which is C15. So let's go and write blank. And we take that range and it should be 1. So let's go and do a real world example here. Okay. I'm going to pause a bit. Let's see. Okay, so here what we're going to do for the example, we're going to use the different function that we saw in this video, sum, average, mean, max, count, count A, count blank. So we're going to start with the sum function. We're going to use it here. Here, for example, we may want to know VO value width for the different exams. Here it should be normally it should be 100. Let's go ahead and try that. So for this, it should be 100. And yes, effective for real, like it is really 100. So it's perfect. Going to use the average. So here, for example, let's say in exam 1, we want to do the average grade for the students. So we're going to write average here, average. We're going to write average here, and when we come here, we take exam 1. These are the grade for exam 1, and we're going to take the range and the whole column here. That will be our range. That will be our range, and among that range, we're going to get the average grade. So we're going to use a simple like keyboard tree, a keyboard shortcut. I'm going to click on Control, Shift, and down to get that full range. And here I click OK, and I get that number 84.3. If I want to get the minimum number, the minimum grade for exam 1, I do basically the same thing I use the minimum function. I come here and Control Shift down is the range, and I will get the minimum grade, which is 52%. Straightforward, same thing here. Much to do. Come here, use Control Shift and down. Okay, enter, and 100. So the maximum grade is 100%. So yeah, it's real 100% here. Then better grade than that. So we're going to use the count and count A function here. So now we want to count the number of we want to count the number of students, for example, that really did took exam 1, for example. And if you want to use count A, like I said, count A works just with numbers. Like it has to be numbers in the different cells, like numbers and nothing else. If you have, for example, numbers with punctuation and stuff like that, like for the ID column, it's not going to work. Let me shut the computer. Okay, it's not going to work. So here we're going to use the count function. We use the count function. Like I said, we can use it only with numbers. So if you want to know the number of students we took exam one, let's suppose, for example, that the teacher gave a grade to each student who took exam one and left blank the cells for those who didn't get a grade because they didn't show up. So the number of columns that have numbers in them will be the numbers of students who did show up and took the exam. So this is what we're going. This is essentially what we're going to do here. So we come here to Control Shift down, and we have 36 here. So basically, every student here did take the exam. So I think if we use the count a function, we should get 36 here. But to use the count a function, like I said, the count a function will work with nouns, letters, stuff like that. So, but we can also use it with numbers, but generally numbers that are like punctuation, hyphen, stuff like that. So we can use it with the student ID. It's the ID column to get the number so that we did take the exam. So we should get 36. It shouldn't be different. So we come here, the first ID number, Control Shift down, and we get, let's see, 36. So that's your answer here. So the count blank function, we're going to use it here, count a blank, so that we didn't show up for the final exam. Like I said, let's say that here, for example, the teacher gave a grade to every student we showed up, but left blank the cells for those we didn't show up. So if you use the count blank function and we want to know the number of students who didn't show up, it will be pretty much easy. We just need to use the count blank function and use the range, and all those cells that are blank that represent the number the student we didn't take the final exam. If you add all of them, it will give us the number of students basically we didn't show up for the final exam. So this is what we're going to do here, equal on blank function, and we take the range here. But we can't use the Control Shift down here because you're going to stop here. So we see one of the limitations of that keyboard trick, but we can still like the table as like it's not so long, so we can do that here. So we take that range, and it should show us that we have -3. That's not right. That's not right. No, it shouldn't be -3. It should be positive. Let me see. Okay. I don't get that part. Count blank function. No, oh, I didn't see count. I entered it. Let's take that range here. Free student who didn't showed up for the final exam. Let's check here. The first one will be here, first one here, second one here, and the third one here. So yeah, free student didn't take part in the exam. So this is all for the second video for the summary function. I'm going to stop here and put another one for the text function and conditional function. Thank you.